in a nutshell, I spent 1943, 44, and 45 in the Navy, and at least half of that was on a 110-foot subchaser. So we started working the islands, and ultimately there's the Marines in the Army captured Saipan, that was July of 1944, July and August of 44. And then we were allowed, shortly after that, into the harbor. There were no harbors between Pearl Harbor and there that I ever saw. You just dropped the anchor and then you had to be on guard. And but once you got inside that harbor, you had some security. And one time I was up on the beach and I ran across two Marines that were off duty. So I'm up on the beach and I approached these guys. I wanted to buy some souvenirs. They said, no, we don't want to sell any of our souvenirs. And then out of the blue, one of these Marines said, there's a teenage girl here who in 1937 was 11 years old. She said she was taking a shortcut through a sugarcane field and she heard these Japanese motorcycles coming. So she ducked in the sugarcane field and the motorcycle stopped adjacent to where she was hiding, and one motorcycle had a sidecar, and in the sidecar was a white lady blindfolded. So they helped this lady out of the sidecar and over to what turned out to be a pre-dug grave. A shot rang out, got buried. They buried her. Then the other Marine says, yeah, a few days ago, our sergeant was on patrol and he came across this aluminum twin-engine airplane under a canopy, and they charged towards it, and there were some people guarding it in strange U.S. uniforms, and they were very abrupt and rude and chased them away. So I concluded Amelia Earhart was buried here and her airplane is here someplace. Let's jump ahead to the end of the war. Periodically, there'd be a clipping in the newspaper saying those Marines that are from World War II that were on Saipan, they're running around telling people that Amelia Earhart is buried on that island, are dispensing disinformation because it can't be possible. There's no way she could have gotten there. So of course I'm a little confused by that. Wondered, those Marines couldn't have made that up, could they? In 1990, the television program Unsolved Mysteries, they take a crew to Saipan and they interview this lady. She says, in 1937, I was 11 years old, I was taking a shortcut through a sugarcane field, almost word for word what this Marine said to me in 1944. And then they went to someplace in the United States and they found this guy that says, yeah, I was a sergeant in the Marines on Saipan, and we came across this airplane, same story. And then there's Robert Stackrover says, and the Navy still insists that this is all fictional. Well, if you get on Google, I did that subsequently, there's all kinds of information. They found Amelia Earhart's briefcase in a safe there. And, but kind of a sequel to this whole thing, if we're not taking up too much time, I believe it was 2008 perhaps, Amelia Earhart's niece obtained a replica Lockheed Electra from Lockheed Airplane Company, and she made the trip all the way around the world. She landed back in California at the Lockheed plant, and there was a big celebration. There was a newspaper reporter there, and he found an engineer who had been on the original airplane that had got called out of retirement as a consultant on the replica. And he asked this engineer, he says, now is this airplane the exact duplicate of the one that Amelia Earhart flew? Oh yeah. Tires, nuts and bolts, engine, everything. Well, there was one thing different. In Amelia's, we had to put one of those big spy cameras in it, and that was quite a challenge. Well, to me, and I'm jumping to conclusions perhaps, Amelia Earhart got talked into spying, and if she landed at Saipan and they saw that camera, they said, we'd like to develop the film in that camera. That could have been the end of it. So I wrote an article. I'm a columnist for the Roseburg Beacon, and I wrote an article on just what we've reviewed, and the day the article came out, I got a call from Roseburg, Oregon. This guy sounded very much alert and not elderly at all. He says, 1944, I was on such and such a Navy ship, and we stopped at Saipan. I was a storekeeper, and I had to go up on the island for some business reason. I was dealing with a native who spoke good English. When the business was conducted, the fellow said, you realize, don't you, that in 1937, Amelia Earhart landed here looking for fuel, and the Japanese executed her. And he said until my column came out, it didn't fill in.